Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We have a lot to cover as usual. So let's just go ahead and, you know what? Let's get busy. Title of the show today, Caletta Harris tells the real homelessness story. COVID lies kill. Medicare for all now. Caletta Harris saw a problem and catered her skills to help expose the plight of the homeless. COVID lies by Trump and his sycophants continue to kill people. We're going to show that up front. And we're going to show you why it is that we need Medicare for all. Folks, this is some serious stuff and we want to get busy. We want to go ahead and start on this right away. So let's go ahead and get started with one thing first. Last night I came across an article about this man who continuously spoke out against COVID-19 and it was silly. He's not wearing any mask. He doesn't, he's not buying all the crap as he would put it, right? And, I kept on listening to this and I'm like, is this worth the time? Is this worth something that we want to talk about? Because, some people put on, when I write these things, they're like, why are you talking about these fools? Why don't you go ahead and do something else? Why don't you talk about what we need to do? And what I try to tell folks is, yes, we should be high-minded. But at times, we have to simply approach those at the level where they are. So sometimes people have to see the effects of what they're doing to actually get it in their head. So I want you to check this out and then we'll take it on the other side. We have Dan Patrick, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, telling people, old people don't mind going out there and working. If we have to die to save the economy, that's okay. We have Glenn Beck similarly saying things of that sort. We have Chuck Lorre, the Love Connection guy, saying all this stuff about COVID-19 and what the CDC is putting out there is nothing but a fraud. It's nothing but a lie. I mean, we have all these personalities talking to their pew, talking to their people, telling them, this COVID thing isn't real. And while this is occurring, I am watching people die. I'm watching people who simply because of what they've heard say, I am not wearing a mask. I'm not going to do anything. I don't believe in all this crap. Now, here we have, I just came across this story. An Ohio Army vet who refused to wear a face mask because he didn't want to buy into the damn hype died of coronavirus complications on the 4th of July. Richard Rose, 37, of Port Clinton, who served for 9 years, including 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, died at his home, according to an online obituary. Back on April 28, he posted that he was ignoring official recommendations to wear a face mask amid the deadly pandemic. Let me make this clear, Rose wrote. I am not buying an effing mask. I made it this far by not buying into that damn hype. In the wake of his death, that post has been shared about 18,000 times and hundreds of commentators. And I know a lot of folks are saying, well, it serves you right, natural selection. But I am saying, I am not blaming Brother Rose, this Ohio Army guy. I am blaming those people that continue to push the stories. People have confidence in the people they follow. And if you're following conservative right-wing hacks that don't give a you-know-what, it is their fault that this is occurring. Here is his obituary, Richard Donald Rose III. I tell you, this is real. People are dying not because they had to die, not because they died accidentally, but because of their choices. the choices that was instilled in them by liars who knew better, by people who know better, who have instilled a fallacy throughout this country that has put all of us at risk. It's interesting. Earlier today, I played on Politics Done Right the Fall, and I want you to listen to this.
Once, hardly, I'm basically without words here. I mean, what I can say is I've been working in places like the Democratic Republic of the Congo my entire career, and my colleagues there say, well, now you know what it's like. You know, we have fallen far from our seat of being the country that stands as a bastion of science and truth and understanding. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Dr. Fauci is a scientist, and so he is letting science dictate recommendations, and that is where we should be. And this idea that we can be, you know, taking that our president is taking advice from somebody like Chuck Woolery or promoting these kinds of words from the guy whose biggest claim to fame is being the host of the Love Connection or a name in a Beastie Boys song is just utterly insanity.
It's utter insanity. Folks, people are dying. To my right-wing conservative friends, I'm not asking you to change your ideology. I'm just asking you to be sensible. I'm just telling you, the people you're following, they know better, and they are not going to make the mistakes that they are asking you to make in order to prop up the economy falsely. That is the whole gist behind this. They want people back to work, so they have to minimize what is occurring to do so, instead of doing the hard work to get it under control in such a manner that we can all go back to work safely. Nobody wants to be cooped up at home. Nobody wants to live on the dole, but everybody deserves to be safe and not have illnesses that will last them their lives over, if not kill them. Okay, folks, I hope you like that. Now, first of all, let me welcome some of our folks. Welcome, Dimitri OG. Buenos días, hermanos. ¿Cómo estás? Pero mira, no son las mañanas, son las tardes. Anyhow, let's see. Whoa, our stream says we already have 100 messages for the day. Wow, that's amazing for, we just got started, guys. Anyhow, let's see. Rose, welcome aboard. Rose, as you guys all know, she is a copy editor, so she has access to our website to copy edit. So if I make mistakes and you see it, it's because Rose hasn't got to it yet, folks. Anyhow, also we have AVQ watching from away. Welcome aboard, my brother. Let's see, Paul Fleming, Atlanta checking in. Check in, my brother. Okay, Hope, cryptocurrency. In fact, that's a good subject. In fact, a friend of mine was sort of into cryptocurrency and the whole work, so maybe I'll bring him on to as well. With respect to white fragility, I'm going to check it out. Send me the link to whatever it is that I need to find out so we make sure we're on the same page. Anyhow, folks, continuing with the show, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and do the Caletta interview. Welcome aboard, Bruce. Hey, Bruce, you said you're looking at taxes. Man, when I realized today was the 15th, Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard. When I realized it was the 15th, Bruce, guess what I did? I ran to EFTPS. Actually, I went to the IRS.gov. They have this automatic thing where you can just go ahead and pay up for the do your extension. Because you know what? I haven't even bought TurboTax yet. Sadly, I went and I saw one for $49, and I think it was fraudulent, even though the website checked out and said everything was A-okay with that website. But we'll see. PayPal would have to give me my money back. Anyhow, let's go ahead and Caletta has a story. I met Caletta at we did a conference call, not a conference call, but the Tamara for Georgia show. And when I listened to the tonality and exactly what she was doing and what she spoke about, and you guys know I'm sort of a sucker for anybody that start to doing things for the downtrodden. And as soon as she said, when they made the homeless, what is it that she said? Something like they made the homeless a crime or made homelessness a crime. And I'm like, that's my girl. I mean, and I should say, I don't mean to be sexist if that sounded sexist for the women that are listening, but you guys get my drift. And I'm like, wow. And then it turns out, as you guys are going to see from the interview, John Trott, welcome aboard. As you guys see from the interview, there's more than her cinematography, and there's more to her. She's into a whole lot of stuff. So check this out. And after this interview, we'll go ahead and we'll do the Medicare for All, because there's some important stuff. I want to use a doctor's statement and her hurt to talk about why we have to have Medicare for All, why we should use COVID-19 as the catalyst, and move on. But for now, vamos a comenzar con Caletta. Here you are. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm here with Caletta Harris. Caletta Harris is the owner of Reel to Reel Production. She received a vision to start her own production company while attending the University of South Carolina. While studying broadcast journalism, she was fascinated with the creative aspect from behind the camera and the process of producing videos. She's currently the director, the producer, and everything of NOADDRESS.
We're being harassed. We can't be in the parks. We can't be at the bus transit stations. Law enforcement is subject to pull up on us and tell us, hey, you can't sit here, you can't stand there, you have to move on.
They took up all the benches in town so that nobody could sit down anywhere.
I done went to jail down here in Raleigh, North Carolina, 4 times since I've been down here.
I don't think it should be a crime for being homeless.
It's more like out of sight, out of mind.
How do you criminalize somebody's situation?
They're called ordinances, but they're usually city laws that make it a crime to sleep in public, to sit in public, to lie down in public, to sleep in a car, to beg for help, to eat sometimes in public. They just take a variety of different forms.
They was talking about rounding homeless people up and put them in something like a concentration camp.
Our literature says 3.5 million people. If people knew the true number of homeless people, if we documented that true number of homeless people, we don't have the resources to address the problem. And that is a statement directly from an elected official.
Since 1995, the Department of Housing and Urban Development has not given us any money to build housing.
Gentrification is the only housing policy that this city has. Atlanta's housing policy is gentrification. That's it.
I want to do more for myself and getting myself out of this homelessness so I can pay for me a home.
But when you have no address, getting just a decent, regular, scheduled job, virtually impossible.
Before we get into her docu-series, let's learn a little bit more about Caletta. Caletta, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am doing fine. Caletta, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because I met you on another program, and I was completely intrigued by what you're doing out there with the homeless, with the docu-series that you're putting together. Tell us a little about how did you get into doing that?
How did I get into creating this documentary? So first of all, like you said, I own a video production company, and I was in South Carolina at the time. And I was at my downtown office, and I read the newspaper, and city council wanted to do something about their homeless situation. And they basically had 3 options. It was either leave town, go to a shelter that's on the outskirts of town, or be subject to jail if they're caught on the streets. And I'm like, are you serious? These are your solutions? So I, communicate with everyone all the time. I'm just, open like that and, free-spirited. So when I talk to the individuals that are unsheltered, I kind of just put myself in their shoes. I'm an empath, so I'm like, what if that were me? And I just had to leave town with nowhere to go, and then if I go to jail, what does that really look like for my life, you know? And so I wanted to do something. And I said, well, I have a production company. I can just document what's going on around me. And hence 7 years later, I turned in this project called No Address. And it actually became a series because I had so much content. And I wanted to see, well, if this is going on in South Carolina, what's going on around the world? So now it's a 3-part series. The next series is Atlanta, Georgia, and then the following will be different cities in California. So South Carolina is the first one, and I launched that or released that in January of this year.
Now that is already available?
It is available. It is streaming now for a limited time on XOD app, but you can go to our website at NOADDRESSdocumentary.com and click the direct link to take you there.
Now, your business is really doing commercials and all these kinds of things. How has this affected your actual work, your money maker? Because I imagine the documentary series, if this has been going on for 7 years, and for the amount of content that I've seen thus far, it seems like that was a pretty large endeavor.
It really was. And that's why it took 7 years, because I was still working amongst all of that. I had to get paid first, right? And
right.
The documentary. So that's why I would take maybe a year off here and there, or a few months, and then I'll get back to it. So I really got heavy in it in 2017. That's when it was like full force. But I got the preliminaries from 2013. That's when this actual incident occurred.
Now, usually when you do docuseries and documentaries, and when you start talking to people, in fact, I've made it a habit to try not to come to any situation where I'm dealing with others' preconceived notions. What that gives me the ability to do is, when I'm talking to you, as I'm talking to you right now, is to expand based on what you're saying, expand based on what you're putting out. I imagine then that you have learned quite a bit that you hadn't known about those people that are living on the streets, and the diversity, not only in class, the diversity not only in how they got there, but each of them has different stories, right?
Exactly. Everyone has a story, and I really didn't have a lot of preconceived notions, because like I said, I communicate with the unsheltered all the time. So everyone's life was different. The reason why they got into those situations was different. So I wasn't judging. I just was curious of, how does this really happen, and why is it continual with some people, as they call chronically homeless, after a year or so. So the individuals that I followed, I mean, their stories are amazing, and to look at them would not be your typical, stereotypical homeless person, if you will. Like, some were vets.
Give me an example of one that most had an impression on you.
Well, they all did. They all did, because I just formed a connection with them, and I'm still communicating with a lot of people to this day. So it was a bond. I encountered a man named John Holmes, and they called him the homeless man that sleeps in a tent. And he was homeless for 13 years.
13 years.
13 years, like going into different shelters or whatever. So going through that process, he was going through a lot with substance use at one time, and then he checked himself into rehab, and then he went to different shelters here and there, and still working during this whole process. And so he just got tired of the systematic way that they handle shelters. So he was like, look, I have all these skills. I was in the military. I did this. You're a Marine. So he built his own tent, had electricity, had like a queen size bed, like all of this in the middle of nowhere, and lived his life. And he would go places and take a shower and do everything. And he's also the president of an organization called Homeless Helping Homeless, that just was magnificent for the unsheltered population, to get them back on their feet, to know that you are not hopeless, you are not helpless. And they also put on a yearly event where they do a talent showcase for just unsheltered individuals, and they do a silent auction and they'll get paid at the end. You know, I mean, it was just brilliant how they would come together, and they were big on fighting to rescind this vote to criminalize homelessness.
And this was in South Carolina.
This is in South Carolina. So his story is very fascinating. Now he's moved on and has a home, and he's in another state now. And then another couple, he was not really homeless, but he stayed with her because he wanted to make sure that she was safe on the streets. So they met an individual that got him a job. They ended up moving into a RV trailer, and then well, the sad part about it was the job that he trained for the day he walked in. It was a nuclear plant. The day he walked in was the day that they shut down the nuclear plant. So that was like, I mean, event after event after event after event, you know, unexpected situations, but you have to see how that story unfolds when you watch the documentary. And then there was another guy, his wife just, you know, she was on medication for a while. She had cancer, and then I guess the medication got to her and she kicked him out. So he had like 4 children, all these grandchildren, lived 5-acre lot. He was a welder, all of these beautiful things, and then ended up on the streets, you know, until his health got really bad and an organization noticed it and gave him a home. So it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, but everybody's story is unique.
I think that, but it's so important for people to know that, because, you know, everybody think, I mean, yes, everybody's story is unique, but then they always have that point of intersectionality. We are home, we are, well, I noticed you have a new word that, for me at least, and that is the unsheltered. Is that?
Yes, because homeless, I interchange, of course, because most people are familiar with that term, but it just makes you think like it's a dis-ease or something. Oh, you're homeless. You know, I don't like using that as a stigma for people, but, you know, they just don't have a home. Most just have a home. You know what I mean? Nothing's wrong with them. Some have mental, you know, there's a lot of categories of homelessness, if you will, but there's a lot of categories for people with homes as well. You know, a lot of people have substance use, you know, abuse use, and some are alcoholics and some have mental issues, you know, but they just have a home. But you want to ostracize the ones that don't.
Everybody have their demons, I guess. Now, what's your expectation? Are you going to take this docuseries to, what is that big documentary festival that they have out there, I guess somewhere in Utah, I believe, or?
Well, they have Cannes and Sunday.
Yeah.
The Cannes just happened last week, so that's over and done with. But I want to go bigger. I'm in talks with some producers right now to see when the industry really opens back up, to see what we can do with this documentary. So I have a few options on how I can turn this into a really big series, because the goal is to not just talk about the destitution of everything and oh, woe them, but practical solutions. And a lot of cities and states are doing wonderful things that we can kind of cross-pollinate ideas and implement those in different cities. So that's the goal. And there are also bills on, you know, legislature, there are bills on the books to end homelessness and affordable housing. So that's the main thing. And my goal, my personal goal, is to create my own village of affordable alternative housing.
Wow, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, yes. So I want to build like container home villages. You know, they have the tiny home villages.
Yes.
I'm real into container homes because they are very sturdy and they can withstand Category 5 hurricanes. And
they stack on each other as well, right?
Build up. Yes. So you saving, you know, infrastructure and space, and you can put a lot on the land. So that's my goal, is to obtain land and build these villages and employ former homeless people that are empathetic and understand, you know, the circumstances, and just to be able to provide more resources for people and really rehabilitate people, mind, body, and spirit. Because I want to have the whole organic farm. I'm a farmer myself. So, you know, when you feed yourself good, nutritious food, it just changes your mind, body, and spirit.
Did you say you're a farmer as well?
I am a farmer. I have a farm team. Shout out to my farm team. We're called the Pharmacists in South Carolina, and we are on an acre lot, just growing massive amounts of food.
So wait, are you? So you see why I tell you I like to let things progress. I like this. So you actually have an acre of land where you guys farm in the city. What city?
In Columbia, South Carolina.
Wow. And what do you grow?
Oh, wow. So what we're growing now, we have tomatoes, we have squash, we have lemon cucumbers, we have regular cucumbers, arugula, we did potatoes, a bunch of herbs. We're doing sage and basil. We're doing corn now on the other part of the land. So we have grown a lot of food.
In 1 acre.
On 1 acre. Oh yes, you can do a lot with an acre. That's just half an acre of what I just named. So we just built on the other, started planting on the other half acre.
Wow, that is great. Now let me ask, I don't know.
A little bit first, to see how that goes. And then now we're expanding.
You're expanding. Now, South Carolina, you can grow almost, not all the way, but almost year round, right?
Correct.
Do you have maybe some what do you call those buildings that you can grow year round in? The
greenhouse.
Greenhouses?
Yes, we utilize those as well.
Wow, I'm impressed. So here we go from documentary from the homeless. We also have sustainability with gardens and reusability with containers. I mean, I think you're starting to have the whole pro-environmental picture as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm an earth sign, so I'm all about protecting the earth and nature. And
Good. Excellent. Now, what do you want? I know what your plans are, what you want to do for the homeless. I also know that what you want to do about sustainability with now that you're talking about your gardens. Ultimately, what is the path that you see forward?
The path that I see forward is to continue the series wherever it takes me. Like me and one of my colleagues are talking about doing a countrywide trip to go to each state and document. So that can be like a mini series, like a 20-minute series or 15-minute series in each city that we stop at and, do outreach and document.
I think that is such an excellent idea. I had for this, what we do here at Politics Done Right, my goal was to get a truck, stamp Politics Done Right on it, and go talk to America, because what we say all the time is that mainstream media doesn't really talk to real people, and what we want to do is start talking to real people. And that plan that you have, I think it's an excellent plan. Caletta, why don't you tell me a little bit about the documentary and how people can actually get to it and how people can help you to do what I think is something that's magnanimous.
Well, yes, you can go to the website. All the information is on there at NOADDRESSdocumentary.com. We also have a podcast out. I'm on my 9th episode. Yay. And it's very informative. A lot of good information that we teach you. And we also have tips every week, so you can implement that when you don't know what to do. Like, I want to help, but I don't know what to do. So all of that is on the podcast. So if you go to our articles page, there's an article. The first article is called Housing Not Handcuffs. And if you can sign up to be an advocate, they would send you a lot of information on what you can do in your communities. So I would definitely recommend following that campaign and following the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty. They have great webinars to talk about the unsheltered. So yes, so to watch the documentary, you go to NOADDRESSdocumentary.com.
Caletta, we'll have all that information in the blog post for this particular issue. Now, Caletta, what haven't I asked you that you just want to get out there and say, look, you didn't ask me that, but I need to say this?
I just say that people should connect. We are so disconnected right now with just so much going on, a lot of things, Granted, you have a reason to be But I feel like our human connection has become lost in the wind because of social media and everything else that we think we're connected to. But when you get that human to human connection, your mindset starts changing. And that's what I want to do. Bring awareness first, because a lot of people have preconceived notions of what they think the unsheltered looks like. They don't understand that it is a big business. And that's why people are constantly going in this rat race and keep hitting a door and hitting a door, but they're trying. And then after a while, things start deteriorating. You give up hope, you know, you lose hope because you're not getting the answers that you want. And it's systematic, and you do not want to fall in the system. So we can just continue to help our brothers and sisters in need, especially now, because a lot of resources aren't being provided because of COVID. And we have to understand, because of COVID, so many more people will become unsheltered, you know? So how do we look at that? So when we start taking care of one another first, then the love spreads, the energy spreads. So I feel like we just need to acknowledge those that we see on the streets and not run away or think everyone's a criminal because it should not be a crime to not have a home.
Caletta Harris, thank you so kindly for being a part of Politics Done Right. This has been very inspiring. Inspiring indeed. I just love the aura that she puts out there. I mean, that you know, you can actually feel that, and evidently our listeners too. It's interesting. Mi Latina favorita texts me, says, Egberto, it's not Caletta, it's Caletta. I am sorry. I've called her Caletta the entire time. Forgive me, Caletta. Forgive me. Anyhow, Norman says, big up, Caletta. I saw Hope says, I just learned something, and I guess you could have taught me this too. Egberto, you can feed like 14 families a year on an acre of land. That's plenty of land to feed a lot of people. Didn't know that. AVQ says, I believe that any house that goes unoccupied for longer than 3 years straight should go to the state, and then the house can be given away to a citizen who needs it. You know, AVQ, let me tell you something, my brother. It is so amazing to me. And you hear me talk about capitalism a whole lot. All of that is anathema to capitalism. Humanity is anathema to capitalism, because humanity would say we would do things like that, because an empty house is an uncared house. But an uncared house sort of forces actions as far as the capitalist is concerned, right? So, and Rose says even more produce. Of course, Really Cool, who is calling in. I'm coming to the phone in a minute. Really Cool, who is calling in from I think you're coming in from Twitter, says, impressive, Caletta, impressive. And Bruce had something to say that was touching. Bruce says, I am so impressed with all our young folks. Maybe we need to amend the Constitution to allow one of them to be president and to sort out the mess we are leaving them sooner, more so than later. Rabiel Caban, I better be the only Latina. Okay, Robbie. Okay, mi amiga, tú sabes que tú eres. Okay, vamos a ver. Let's see. Who else is there? I'll get to the other things, but let me go ahead and get to the phone, and then we'll get into Medicare for all, okay? All right, phone coming in from 828. Come on in. You're hot.
Hi, Egberto. It's Hope from North Carolina. How you doing?
Great. Who am I talking to?
This is Hope.
Hey, Hope. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Hey, I won't keep you, but I thought that your guest was amazing. I think that you should do a lot more programs like that focus on sustainability. If it speaks to your heart like that, it sure does speak to mine.
It spoke, well, like I said, Hope, we were on the Tamara for Georgia show. And when she came on, like I said, she exudes that thing that you say, I want to do for people. And then I didn't know, on the show, Hope, I didn't know anything about her farming. I didn't know anything about the container homes, all these things that she's thinking about, right? So my thing is like, wow, we need to give this woman exposure, because, you know, the idea starts with somebody and then you grow it into something, right? And it was like, wow, that was beautiful. And, judging from the comments I'm getting from all over, people love what they're hearing. And it would be nice if we all support things like that, Hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with you. And I think she's brilliant to be documenting everything. I mean, we live in a very, very visual society now. And I really hope that she gets into Sundance, and I hope she just keeps going with it. And I hope, that maybe you can hook up with her and do some documentary stuff with your program at some point. I think that'd be awesome.
Trust me, I intend to. And, she's actually a professional document. So she knows how to use those tools and that sort of thing. And she knows how to give the story life, I looked at a lot of the stuff that she's done, and on her website. You guys should check it out. I have the link in my in the blog post for the thing. But you can see that I love to see these independent people working independently as she is and others that we've covered before. I think it's the best thing, the best way that we get this country together, Hope.
Oh, it's the only way to do it. And anyway, I'll let you move on, but I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoyed that. That was awesome.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, and you have a wonderful day, okay?
You bet. You too.
Take care, folks. Hey, guys, look, I'm taking calls, by the way. The number is 346-248-7799, and the code to get in, 254-600-9091. If you want to call, before I go on to Medicare for All, because that's a 7-minute piece after I saw that piece on TV, it got to me. And after that I have a lot more to say, but I just want to I haven't been going through enough of these messages before, and I don't want to leave anybody hanging. So I think I took care of Hope with the cryptography. Let's see if there's anything else catching. We should make homeless apartments out of the high-rise office buildings. Hope, and you know what else, Hope? I'm glad that you said that, because there's something else that's happening in the country, right? And that is, people learned something with this pandemic. They learned that a lot of people can do well and have a better quality of life, those who have the ability to work at home. And they notice, I have a couple of friends, these are a couple of executives who have people under them that have said, hey, you know what we've noticed? We've noticed that people's productivity have increased. I mean, in a lot of ways, that can be kind of dangerous, right? Because a lot of people are working from home, and because they're working from home, they're actually putting in more hours, because a lot of that commute time that they would have used, instead of using it for their families a little bit longer, they may actually use it for more work. And the capitalists know that. They know that, hey, if they're not spending 2.5 hours on the road, they're going to be at home, and they may give me an extra hour of work for free, which is probably what's happening, but the productivity increases. But, I don't mind giving an employer an extra time, because there are times that I'll take it back away. And not only that, because, being able to lounge around and that sort of, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So, I mean, it's a win-win situation. But then we have our people that they don't have the wherewithal, or they don't have the kind of jobs that can have them work at home or have them hide from the virus or whatever. And that is sort of what I want to talk about in this next piece. So let's go on to the next piece, and then we'll move on from there, mi hermanos y mis hermanas. If there's any doubt that we need Medicare for all, I need you to watch this, and then let's take it on the other side.
Dr. Harper, last Friday, Dr. Osterholm of the University of Minnesota pointed out a grim statistic we're about to hit. We're getting awfully close to have lost 1,000 medical workers to this virus. Mm-hmm. And he said, in 4 months, imagine losing 1,000 soldiers in a war overseas in 4 months. We know where the country would be. We know where Congress would be. We'd be talking about ways to honor these folks. We talk about GI bills for those that are fighting. It feels awkward to say this, but it feels as almost we need to remind the country that you're on the front lines here, Dr. Harper, risking your life.
It's true. Everything you're saying is true in terms of the loss to death and illness of healthcare providers that we so critically need. But then there's also disability that's going to happen. The fall is coming. We thought we would have a little respite, but we're seeing that even in the summer in parts of this country, there they have no respite at this time. And then the fall will come where we have a spike in viral illnesses, and it will get worse. So even those of us who are still alive, because people are going to get sick, they're not going to be able to work for that reason as well. We do need to take care of our healthcare providers, all of our essential workers for this reasons, because we so sorely need them. In addition to everything we've talked about, the lack of PPE, lack of testing, there's other stress, even for those of us in the Northeast, who luckily have a little lull in disease severity and ER volumes. There's stresses of, well, healthcare providers, because medicine in this country is run like for-profit as well, medical providers have been furloughed, have been fired. There are pay cuts. So we work in this environment of financial insecurity while we're trying to heal from the physical trauma, bracing for the next physical trauma. And for essential workers who aren't medical providers, it's even worse. I'm talking about people like the bank tellers I take care of, the grocery store clerks, the mail delivery people. They already didn't have a living wage, and they're having a pay cut. They don't have health care, and they're working during a pandemic. They're forced to work until they physically drop, and then they come to me in the ER, and I admit them to an intensive care unit.
Now, first of all, I'm going to give an absolute statement. Capitalism does not belong in healthcare. Capitalism does not belong in healthcare because of the tenets of capitalism. It is to maximize the profits of the shareholders at all costs. And the stakeholders that are the patients, the stakeholders that are the doctors, the stakeholders that are everybody else does not matter, because as Mr. The master of capitalism in the new days, Milton Friedman, said, at all costs, we care about nothing else but the maximization of profits for the shareholders, and that is the job of the executives. So they are the ones guarding that gate, and they make sure that as hospitals are overwhelmed and not bringing in the free cash that they can from all the other services that are no longer given because they're dedicated to COVID, they must lay off those people that seem to be just kind of not doing as much, and then they overwork those that stay. And at the same time, they ask them to cut their pay. Why? To maximize the profit for those that are sitting at their pools drinking a glass of wine. That is what it's all about. Medicare for All takes that out, with the employers getting rid of employees, and most of these people, or a large percentage of these people, haven't gotten their insurance from these employers. It actually means what else? It means we have, as of yesterday, reported 5-point-something million more people uninsured. And by the way, of those other 20 million people, what happened is they didn't have insurance in the first place. So let's understand what we're talking about here. Healthcare does not belong. Capitalism and healthcare does not compute. They serve different masters. Now, here we have the good doctor stating, you know that in as much as we as doctors, in as much as our nurses, in as much as our orderlies have it tough, they're working long hours, they're still getting paid. But think about that grocer, that grocery checker who doesn't have insurance or who gets sick and doesn't get paid when they're in the hospital. Think about the attendant. Think about the people we consider the folks that must be facing us for us to buy from. They are facing thousands of people every day. We sit back and hide at home. They are the real critical workers. Yet we tend to pay them the least, and we do not want to give them health insurance or make them whole, give them a reason for the sacrifice that they are providing. That is our system. If people cannot see the immorality, if those people who do not support Medicare for All does not see the evil, then what is there? Folks, this is COVID-19 is a blessing in disguise for all the sacrifice of all the dead, for all the sacrifice of all the sick, for all the sacrifice of those who will be permanently maimed by this disease, let's not allow it to go one more cycle without demanding whoever is elected that we get Medicare for all, because this is evil, and anybody who hears this narrative cannot make or come out with some other form or some other thought process other than this is an evil system. Okay, I hope you got that. Let me say further, right? I sit back and I watch I watch the news ad nauseum, and I see people suffering. I can understand and see what's going on at the hospitals, and I'm not only talking about doctors, nurses, and the people that you go out to the store with. We know that these people are having a hard time. Sadly, what's missing is, I think, the masses finally rising up. And people say, well, that isn't an American thing. I'm from Central America. We rise up for just about anything. But then somebody can look back and say, and how successful have you guys been? Where does most of the money from the Panama Canal come in, as much as you guys rise up more than anybody else? Where does the money from, let's say, the bauxite in Jamaica go for you guys that decide to rise up against whatever government is coming up? Where is it going in Mexico? You guys just elected a great left-winger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And my answer is always, it's a constant fight. It's not something that you ever stop. It's not something that you ever win. It is something that is always a process. It's a process towards goodness. Slavery was horrendous. Now we got Jim Crow, not as bad, or it has the semblance of not being as bad. Well, at least not being as physically painful. But we have to keep pushing on. We have to keep pushing on. Now, all the 138,000 dead Americans from COVID, and by the way, that number is probably 20% an undercount if you go ahead and count all those people that have died at home that currently nobody is counting as COVID. They just pick them up and take them to the morgue. So this is a disease that is really out there, and this is a disease that is calling for us to act. And acting means doing all the different things, doing what Caletta is doing to help people on an individual basis, on their immediate basis. But it also means what all those people are doing in the streets, as they're saying, no, defund the police and put the monies where it's more appropriate. It is more powerful when we're in the streets saying, absolutely not, we're going for Medicare for all. And yes, whereas at the beginning we weren't willing to say get rid of private insurance, now we have a reason to see why it is essential that we get rid of private health insurance, because it's an evil institution that has nothing to do with healthcare, but how to use your healthcare, how to use your illness, your sickness, your disease to make somebody a buck. When you start looking at things from the point of view of how it really works, it makes a difference. I have nothing against anybody making a buck. I ran a software company. Well, I ran a software company for a long time. Made good money in those days. The thing about it, folks, is this. When is enough enough? When is $200 billion ridiculous? When is $1 billion for one person ridiculous? It is. Nobody is worth that. I spoke to a capitalist one time who told me, I don't know. The truth of the matter is, I just make money. We are sitting down in Starbucks, and this guy is a multimillionaire, and he says, he's sitting down there doing the stock, and I see one account. And I said, what did you do to make that? What did you create to make that? I see Bruce is on. Bruce is a scientist. Bruce goes at companies and He actually provides values for the thing that he does. I see Norman Reynolds is on as well. Norman goes into a company and he makes sure that that company has efficiencies, that that company can produce what it produces of good, and engineers that actually produce something. Yet, they make orders of magnitude under what those executives make for signing a piece of paper. They make orders of magnitude less than the super shareholding capitalist that's there. Why? When did capital have more value than humanity and intellect? When? Please explain. And when you start to get this, and some people say the way I explain certain things, maybe I need to find a different way to approach the masses, anybody who has advice as far as how to do it, I'm an open book. But anyway, we're down to the last few minutes, so let me get back to the messages. AVQ says, there shouldn't be any billionaires. No one needs more than $10 million. And AVQ, and the thing about it, AVQ, is I don't want to just say there shouldn't be any billionaires, right? What I want to say is nobody has made a billion. What I want to say is other people have made billions for you. Their intellect, their work is what have made billions for you. Lewis Johnson says, on civilization, I call it. It flies in the face of why human beings group together at all. Lewis, that is the statement of the day. Lewis has the statement of the day. Repeat. On civilization, I call it. It flies in the face of why human beings group together at all. Exactly. We group together because together we can attain more. Real insurance, not insurance that makes a big profit for a few, says we all pool things together so that if one of us are unlucky enough to get sick, we take that money out of the pool. We take that investment out of the pool to make sure that that person that was unlucky remains whole like the rest of us. But we have turned all these processes, all these things into a product. We have turned your illness into a product. We have turned your well-being into a product. And every time you do that into a product, it means you have to itemize how you maximize the profits on that. And that's why, as a society, going back to Lewis Johnson, as a society, we have to determine what we put in the commons, meaning there's not a profit motive behind it, just a social human thing behind it, and what we allow competition and the markets to run. Certain things do well in the market. I have no problem with that. What does not do well in the market are things that are essential to people. And we have to start promoting this. We have to start getting there. We have to start learning. Lee Grant says, we will need an authoritarian socialist government that confiscate and redistribute houses and confiscate excess dollars or anything else that the dictator wants. False. Everything else that society wants. So I'll give you everything that you just said. I have no problem with it. If society is there to maximize your human value, Lee Grant, and we as a society come up with tenets that makes life better for all, then I'm for that. But one I want to tell you, Lee Grant, is something that is deeper. What you don't understand is that right now, all these things that you are accusing a potential government of doing is what capitalism does to Americans and the rest of the world right now. From private insurance, who tells you who you can go see, which doctor you can go see, which medicines you can take, or whether or not we are going to give you that surgery. That's an individual entity making a calculated financial decision that has very little to do with your best well-being, but with the well-being of the shareholder. That is worse than dictatorship. That is evil. And we can go over item after item after item of these issues. AVQ says, and if an immortal who landed here with Columbus made $5,000 a day every day, they wouldn't be a billionaire today. Yes, the math checks out. I have no doubt of your math, Mr. AVQ. Bruce says we have a smart, supportable candidate set to stand, Texas Senator Cornyn. Let's do it, Texas. We will. We will. But Bruce, I think we all understand that that is just the beginning, because we have a lot of work to do, because we're going to have a lot of minds changing to do. Anyhow, we're getting to the end of the program. Look, folks, please visit. I'm going to put my links in there. You know, I have to do that because you know what, folks? We have to be able to stay open. So let me go ahead and find the links. I had all this time to go ahead and put these links up while I was playing the video, and I didn't, of course. But you know what? I did find it. I did find it. Anyhow, folks, you can become supporters of Politics Done Right. We need your support via Patreon, and that is at politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can also support us via PayPal by going through Politics Done Right. Let's see, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. You can support us by becoming a member on Facebook, and this is new. Facebook just gave us authorization to accept membership. Love to have you there. So please go ahead and consider going to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. Likewise, if you're on YouTube and you want to be kind, you can always give us a super chat. Yesterday we got a few super chats, so it would be nice to get a few super chats today as well. Now we have a store, and you can visit our store. And what can you get at our store? You can get at our store our books. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. This is my book that'll tell you everything about the economic system and how it works in an easy-to-understand way. And you know what? You kind of see me in the old days with a fro and a guitar playing in my band and all that kind of stuff. Little picture I have on that in there. And, of course, Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. When I had some interesting pressure problems, that was the way for me to start getting things under control. I wrote about it. I did it my way. And this book says, hey, you can do it your way too. This is what I did, and here's what you can do, because it's all about the numbers. Of course, you can also get things like let me turn it around, our cup. What is it? Cup. There you go. Our cup, politicsdoneright.com. And we have T-shirts. We have the whole works out there. So please consider going there as well. And while we're closing out and I'm giving you my final thoughts, I have the store rolling. Look, I know you have other places you can be. I appreciate you being here and spending this time with me. You keep us going. And I promise you one thing. We will keep telling the truth, and we'll keep making sure that others hear the truth. Because the biggest problem we have right now is people not having faith in what they're listening to, or having too much faith in what they're listening to. That's why in the story that I started with, you could see that guy pretty much committed suicide. How did he commit suicide? By listening to the wrong people. Do I hold him accountable for that? Just a little bit. Because the right has powerful messaging. Their messaging is powerful. We have to be more powerful, more substantive, and more of it. That is the reason why people say, why do you blog so much? Why do you write so much? Why do you keep this stuff out? You see, I understand how the internet works. You have to have your material out there. If you want to make change, you have to have material that is fresh, material that constantly comes out, because they have people in all over the world pushing their right-wing crap. And it's really right-wing crap, but they have it down to a science. The Heritage Foundation knows exactly how to create the circular firing squad for us as they create the circular definitions for what they believe in. So, folks, please consider, I put the links out there, becoming a member of Politics Done Right. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/GoFundMe. You will feel good for what we're bringing to us all. Thank you so kindly. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.